This is your Swan Private live session. We are so excited to have all of you joining us. If you have a moment and you want to say hello, you can chat with us in the chat box. Be sure to let us know where you're coming in from and where in the world you are, or just how you're feeling about the market today. We're so excited to have all of you with us for a really important conversation. I was chatting with the gentleman before we went live saying we've been hosting these live sessions coming up on 2 years now, just a short while after I joined Swan. And the topic of today is one of the most commonly requested topics. It's a topic where we get tons of questions from all of you. So I know you're going to find it super valuable. Really talking about, of course, the bullish case for Bitcoin. I have a feeling we might be touching on that. That's a hint for one of our today's special guests, but also about custody, self-custody, and the new Swan Vault. So this is going to be a really engaging, super informative live session, and we're so glad to have you all with us. I see Donna from Calabasas. I see Gregory, Shelly, Liam. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you. And thank you to all of you who joined us in Santa Monica earlier this month for Pacific Bitcoin. Wow, what a whirlwind week for Swans. And I hope an amazing couple of days for all of you who joined us. We had, thankfully, really great feedback again this year. If you can imagine, we're already planning next year. So if you have a pen or pencil or your phone handy and you want to save the date, save October 11th and 12th. That's where we are, where our sights are set for 2024. And we are really excited to continue to up-level the event, continue to bring you great entertainment, great live sessions, workshops, networking, all the great things that happened at Pacific Bitcoin. And and thank you, Liam. Yeah, and it was so great to see all of you in person. Every time we get together as a company and with all of you, we're just reminded of the power of meeting in person. These online sessions, of course, they're amazing and we love having them every month, but to have that special time each year where we get together in person, there's just magic in that happens every year. Businesses that launched, we had Sovereign Energy launch their energy drink this year. Last year it was BTC Trading Cards, who, if you saw their booth this year, was bigger and better as their brand continues to grow. Lots of partnerships, people found jobs, people made friends. It was amazing, and we're really excited to see you all back again in 2024. So if you go to Pacific Bitcoin /2024 or just pacificbitcoin.com, either way, you'll be able to secure your tickets for next year's event at the lowest, absolute lowest price you are ever going to see those tickets. And the other piece of good news is they're fully refundable until February. So you can feel free to say yes, secure your seats, don't worry about it. But also, you're not going to want to miss it because Guy and I are cooking up a lot of really fun, fresh pieces of entertainment, liveliness. You're going to see us continue to evolve the event year after year. But for today's discussion, again, we are talking about self-sovereignty, self-custody, where and what we're excited about for Bitcoin in 2024, but more importantly, how you can secure that Bitcoin safely. We'll talk about some of the things to watch out for, challenges that you may be facing, as well as some really helpful paths, whether you're just getting started or you're a more advanced Bitcoiner, you're looking for multi-sig opportunities or ways to protect your legacy for your future. We're going to be hitting on all of those topics. I'm very, very excited about all of the gentlemen joining us today for that conversation. We have Guy Gomez, who is Swan's president. He has been on board with us, I believe, for just over 2 years. No, 1 year. 1 year? Oh my gosh, it feels like so much longer. He's done a lot, is the point. He has been an amazing addition to the Swan family, coming over from Bridgewater, a really amazing background, but even more importantly, an amazing Bitcoiner. If you haven't had the chance to meet Guy at one of our events or on one of these live sessions, you're in for a treat today to get to know him a little bit better, alongside Morit, who is the managing director of Swan Custody and also one of the big brains behind Swan Vault. So Guy will be sharing a little more with you about Morit, and you may already know him from Spectre if you're familiar with Spectre Wallet, as well as Vijay Boyapati, who recently joined Swan. I'm going to let Guy share with you more about him, but you're probably already familiar with his very famous Bitcoin book, The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. big topic, big guests, and the pleasure to introduce to you today Guy Gomez, Swan's president, to lead today's conversation. Thank you for joining us, Guy.
Yes, thank you so much, Kristen. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here again. Nothing like a small bull market to get everyone excited. We have about almost 100 people joining us live from all over the globe, and this will be an interesting conversation. It is an exciting day for Swan, and as you all know, we have been, since the get-go, since the very early days, Corey, Ian, everyone around Swan has been very vocal about self-custody and the importance of holding your keys and the difference between different solutions. And the goal of the platform and the company overall is to drive adoption and help Bitcoiners around the globe to buy Bitcoin for the first time and eventually move through that journey. Bitcoin is a journey for all of us, and Swan wants to be your partner, your trusted partner during that journey. And custody is one of that main steps. And we're now launching a big product, one that we have been working for almost a year and a half, which is Swan Vault. We're going to talk a lot about it, but before talking about the product itself, we're going to talk a little bit about who is behind that solution, who built that for us, and a little bit about custody overall, the different methodologies, a little bit of the principles behind it. So it'll be a very interesting conversation. And we have two experts joining us, which makes it even more appealing. So first of all, I will give a quick overview, but I'll love both of them to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their journey. But Morit, who is here with us, Morit joined Swan about a year ago, and he was the founder of Spectre. Spectre is one of the largest wallets in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Morit founded that company a while back. He'll tell a little bit about that journey. And Swan acquired Spectre. That was about a year ago. And since then, we had two goals in place. First of all, continue to evolve Spectre, make it more user-friendly, continue to improve that solution, and also bring to market Swan Vault. And he's an amazing person. This will be a very interesting conversation. I want him to go into his background, tell a little bit about his Bitcoin story, share a little bit about why the concern about custody and what brought him to build that wallet in the first place. So we're going to get there in a second, Morris, but before getting to Morris, let's just introduce Vijay. As everyone knows, one of the largest names in the space. We can gladly say that Vijay joined Swan. It's been, what, 3 weeks now, 4 weeks now, Vijay? So very early days, but he's now a senior engineer working at our engineering department, leading meaningful projects, including on the custody side. And before joining Swan, I think he's well known in the Bitcoin ecosystem for writing the bullish case for Bitcoin, the most popular article about Bitcoin. So we're going to tap into that as well, not only Vijay's background, what he did before getting to the Bitcoin space. We're going to share a little bit about the article and what drove him to write that piece and takeaways about that famous article. And then we're going to talk a lot about custody as well. So that's it. That's what we have for the agenda today. It'll be an exciting conversation. So welcome, Moritz. Welcome, Vijay. Maybe we'll start with Moritz a little bit. Just share a little bit about your background, your path into Bitcoin, and a little bit about Spectre before we go deeper into the conversation.
Yeah, my background is more one of infrastructure, mainly renewables, wind energy, which means project development, financing, constructing the whole thing and selling it to investors and handing it over to asset management. Did over, let's say, 18, 20 projects, about 500 million euros in project volume we managed there. And I then in 2017 came across Bitcoin, and I was a sort of a hard money Austrian economics guy before, but only with Bitcoin this came really, I realized how important it is and how big of a problem and how big of a solution Bitcoin can be to that. And I sort of always had my interest in monetary system and financial markets, especially after my army service in 2001. I was in Argentina and saw the collapse of the financial system there and the banking crisis. Spent time in Brazil, which had a hyperinflation, and then also in my family history in 1923 in Germany and Austria. The family lost most of their business and fortune, and also 45 at like during the Second World War, like the family lost like tremendous amount of wealth and companies and operations there. So I was always interested in that. And with Bitcoin, I came in. I was one of these rare cases which, when after 2 weeks, I ordered my first hardware wallet because I knew I had to put it on my own private key, and I want to have a hardware wallet. And back in the days, it was really like the situation was much different back these 6 years back. So these were all new companies, and it wasn't so smooth and perfect of an experience with these hardware wallets. And I ran into a quantum physicist who was working for the Max Planck Institute, who became my CTO, Stepan Snigirev. And this was such a good guy. And we saw so many problems in the discussions we had in the Bitcoin space that we decided to start the Spectre project together. And we started out building a hardware wallet, a do-it-yourself hardware wallet from Spectre, which is now the foundation for Seed Signer and for the Crooks hardware wallet. And we also needed a companion app. And this is when we created the Spectre desktop, where we really could, the first time, connect the Bitcoin core software with all the hardware wallets, and also have a multi-vendor approach that you can use different hardware wallets, create a multisig, and you don't rely on one hardware device. You can rely on different firmwares, and you can run and connect to your own node. So you really can do what the Bitcoiner wants, which means use your Bitcoin node, run your Bitcoin node, verify the transactions, and at the same time, keep your keys in a multisig and keep the keys separated on different firmware. So yes, and we built that out. And at some point, we got into more conversations. We did the integration with Swan, and we saw like that Swan has built an important piece with all the education and the on-ramp and all the client services and Swan Private, and that we have the piece that Swan will need, which is a multi-sig self-custody solution. So we joined a year ago, and then worked very hard on building the Swan World, which we have announced and launched at Pacific Bitcoin. So that's a bit my story. And yeah, maybe I hand it over to Vijay or to Guy.
No, yeah, I think it would be thank you, Moritz. Again, it was a pleasure working with you over the past year to bring this solution to market. Let's go to Vijay. And Vijay, would love to hear a little bit about your background, what brought you to Bitcoin, and eventually Swan. And then later on, maybe we can get a little bit on the article and just share a little bit of the highlights. And if you haven't yet watched it, Vijay's panel at Pacific Bitcoin, you can find that on our YouTube channel. It was an amazing presentation, but we're going to hit on a little bit of that later on today as well.
Thanks, Guy. So you'll notice by my accent that I'm Australian. I'm an engineer by training. I came to the United States a little over 20 years ago to do a PhD in computer science. I was going to go to MIT or Carnegie Mellon, but didn't end up starting the PhD. I went and got a job at a small startup at the time called Google, and I started my career there and worked as an engineer there for several years. While I was at Google, I learned about Austrian economics, and I also had a background in hard money and the importance of a gold standard. I left in 2007 to go campaign in the 2008 presidential election, which didn't really work out. I was campaigning for Ron Paul, who was a candidate who was the only guy who was talking about sound money. And I thought it was really important to get those ideas out there. Unfortunately, his campaign didn't work out, and I felt pretty dejected about the political process. But a few years later, I discovered Bitcoin and this new way that we can use technology to make the world better. And when I first came across it, I understood that this was a monetary technology, but I had so many questions. I didn't fully understand how it worked or why it had any value at all. I knew why gold had value, and I devoted a lot of time thinking about gold's value proposition and why it had been used as money for thousands of years. And I had an experience when I was a kid where my mother got really sick, and my dad wanted to relocate my sister and I from Australia back to India. And he sold all his assets in Australia, and he wanted to take the assets to India, but there wasn't really a functioning banking system. So he sold it down into gold, and he took the gold to India. And I just remember how scared my dad was carrying this bag of gold, literally carrying it on a plane, taking it to India so he could transfer his assets. And so when I discovered Bitcoin, I started to understand that this is like gold, but with teleportation built in. This is like something that has all of the properties that make for an amazing store of value, but you can transmit it as easily as sending an email. And that when that light bulb went off, I started going down the rabbit hole. And I think I had the tools to understand Bitcoin from an economic perspective because of my background in Austrian economics. So I spent several years thinking about Bitcoin and trying to form a mental model for why this thing had any value. And then the bull market started in late 2016, early 2017. And I just remember at the time, there were so many misconceptions about what Bitcoin was. A lot of very prominent people thought of it as this kind of distributed PayPal or something that's competing against Visa, which I thought was completely wrong. So I decided I wanted to write this article, why Bitcoin is valuable, provide an economic framework for why Bitcoin is valuable. And I really only intended that it would be read by a few friends and family. It ended up getting read over 1 million times. It was translated into 20 different languages by volunteers. I didn't pay for any of that. Completely blown away by the reception to the article. And what I learned was that there's a huge latent desire to understand Bitcoin. Like, why does this thing have any value? Why is its value been increasing steadily for over a decade? Why did it reach a value of $1 trillion? These are, I think, the most profound questions in economics. And unfortunately, I don't think economists have devoted any time to it. So I think by writing that article, that's sort of somewhat satisfied that desire for why does this thing have any value. I was totally blown away by the reception, and eventually turned it into a book because people kept asking me, well, can you turn it into a book? I want to buy it for other people and explain why Bitcoin is valuable. So I wrote the book in 2021. And I'm trying to think how this story ends. The story ends pretty recently with getting an email from Corey, who's the CEO of Swan, and he said, I want to chat with you. And I thought he was going to invite me to Pacific Bitcoin to talk about the book. Or maybe, Swan might be raising money because it's growing so rapidly because of, this huge desire to own Bitcoin and to find a place where you can buy Bitcoin without all of the other stuff that, other venues are providing, just Bitcoin only. So I thought it was one of those, but he said, do you want to join us? Do you want to join this team at Swan? It's Bitcoin only. The people are great. And I did my due diligence. I spoke to a whole bunch of people at Swan. I spoke to Guy. I spoke to Jan. I spoke to all the senior people, and I was just blown away, honestly, by the caliber of people at Swan, and how much alignment I had with the mission and values of people at Swan. So I'm really glad to be at Swan. I'm glad to be working on a product that I think is going to make it much easier for people to have their savings and keep their savings themselves. So yeah, that's how my story ends. But I'm happy to talk about any of that in particular if you want, Guy.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, it's a pleasure to have you with us, Vijay. It's a privilege to have like one of the largest names in the space, someone who orange pills so many of us, including myself. And to this day, like last week as an example, talking to a friend is, of course, bull market vibes, trying to understand what's going on, what is Bitcoin. And that was the first resource that I sent him to. So, Kristen, on that note, if you could post the article, I think we have on the Swan website, or there's a lot of versions online on the chat here. If someone that is joining us today haven't yet read the article, please go do so, or buy the book. It's even better. And talking about the book, Vijay, I'd love to go a little bit deeper on that. the forward was from Saylor himself, right? And I think there's a story behind that on Saylor using your article as a piece of his journey to understand Bitcoin, to the point that today he's one of the largest holders of Bitcoin around the globe. So I think that's an interesting story by itself. Maybe you could just, if there's anything else about the article, people should read it. But if you want to answer any, give more color, that would be great, I believe, for everyone to learn more. But especially the Saylor piece, and how was that interaction, and what made him actually move his stance and become one of the largest holders of Bitcoin. That would be interesting for all of us to learn.
Yeah, Michael was orange pilling himself. He was finding resources to try and understand Bitcoin, and he's been at the forefront of a bunch of technology waves, like the mobile revolution that happened, around 2010. He was very early on that as well. So he read my article, and it was part of his orange pilling and what helped convince him that Bitcoin was valuable. And he sent it to all the board members at MicroStrategy and the executive team at MicroStrategy to try and show them this is an important technology. We should be involved in this. And then he made this very large purchase. His first purchase of Bitcoin was something like 500 million. And I think most of us would wish that that could be our first purchase of Bitcoin. And I think it was a week after that, maybe a couple of weeks after that, he sent me an email and said, "Can I chat with you?" And it was kind of this, pleasant surprise, like Corey's email, where I didn't expect it. And we spoke with each other for about half an hour or so, and he was asking me a bunch of questions about Bitcoin, which I duly answered. And then I think it was a few months after that, I decided to write my book, and I thought, he seems to have gotten it. He seems like to really understand Bitcoin. It would be really cool because this article had an impact on his orange pilling and bringing his company on board into Bitcoin, that he would consider writing the foreword. So I shot him a message, and he said, "Sure, I'd love to write the foreword." And I was honestly very honored that he was willing to do that.
Yeah, and that's, again, the more you understand Bitcoin, a key component of it all is network effects, right? So VJ puts out a meaningful article. Many of us have read the article, and it was part of our orange pilling story. Now we pass it over to others. Saylor read, share with the board members. They bought more Bitcoin because of that. Now, on day-to-day here at Swan, we have Swan Business, right? And every single one of those CEOs, CFOs, like leaders of those companies who are calling Swan, most of them were orange pilled because of MicroStrategy moving the needle, right? So like MicroStrategy remains one of the largest names in the space in terms of like corporate companies, public companies adopting Bitcoin, adding Bitcoin to their treasury. And it's interesting like how one article from one person can actually cascade on many Bitcoiners joining the ecosystem. It goes back to what Corey was saying at the opening, I believe, of Pacific Bitcoin, that like we need more people creating content, right? You could say, why would I write a new article about Bitcoin, or why would I have a podcast or do anything that given how much content is out there? But every person can orange pill someone else, and you can tell the story. And someone who is joining the ecosystem now is not going back to the first episodes of Stefan Livera, is not going back to the first episodes of what Bitcoin did. They'll pick up on the next one. So if you're telling a new story, if you're reframing, you're helping to explain, you can do your part. And one day, maybe one of the largest CEOs of a company out there will give you a call and get your article or content shared with their board members. So anyway, that's how it goes. Let's get into the main topic of today. We're talking about custody, and I'd love to get Morit into the mix here. Morit, if you could share a little bit, what is this concept of self-sovereignty and the journey that Bitcoin allows of actually holding your keys and have full possession of your wealth? I know you went through that journey. You went and built a solution to help others to go through that journey in an easier way. And now we're launching Vault, which is trying to make it even more mainstream, making our parents everyone who is very comfortable with mainstream financial services getting into a multi-sig solution. So if you could go through that journey, elaborate, and of course, I'll bring Vijay into the mix to share his thoughts as well. But over to you for a little bit of thoughts on how to think about that journey, the different steps, and how you think about that from a principle philosophical perspective.
Oh, yes. So what usually happens is somebody reads the book of Vijay or somebody else, the Bitcoin Standard, or gets to listen Michael Saylor. He becomes interested in Bitcoin. He signs up at one of the exchanges. If he's unlucky, he goes to Coinbase or Kraken, or signs up at one of these crypto casinos. And if he's lucky, he's going to a Bitcoin-only service like Swan.com. And from there, he buys a little bit of Bitcoin and he gets more familiar with it, what it means and what Bitcoin is about. And as the value increases, he holds on the platform. He thinks about, okay, maybe I don't want to have everything on the platform there. Maybe I want to have it in self-custody. And then he will learn about mobile wallets. And as the value increases, we usually see this with a couple of $1,000. Like old research said, like about $5,000 to people buy their first hardware wallet and start getting their feet wet and looking into it. And from there, they are confronted with the concept of real ownership. And nowadays, people are not so familiar with real ownership of also financial assets anymore. Very few people hold gold coins at home. A few people actually have the experience of holding cash under a mattress, luckily. But Bitcoin reintroduces this mentality and this mindset of real ownership again, where you want to reduce the counterparty risk. You don't want to have your coins being trapped in Mt. Gox, and certainly not 8 years later in FTX or in other crypto exchanges where you know that they're not sound run operations. It's much better to have it in your self custody. So this is the journey that people go through. The more they learn, usually the more they understand that they want to have a sizable position in their portfolio of this. And the more they learn, they also know, I want to be off these centralized exchanges and I want to have it in self-custody.
Yeah, that's what we see a lot. And maybe Vijay could bring you here into the mix, because as Morit was saying, it is a journey, right? And it's hard to say that's right or wrong, right? Bitcoin is for everyone, and different types of people and different types of entities, they have different needs. And for some people, a custodial solution works best. For some people, single sig works best. For other people, multi-sig is the right approach. And if you could elaborate a little bit and share your thoughts from a custody perspective on the risks, pros and cons of different models that we have available right now in the ecosystem. And I know Moritz have a lot of thoughts about that, so maybe we can elaborate after Vijay, but sending to Vijay this one to kick it off, trying to go to that framework of how to assess what is the right solution for you.
I think there's always a journey, as you say, Guy, on people with how much control they take over their Bitcoin and their savings. I think I like to encourage people to go as far along that journey as they are capable. Some people may be less capable than others. For instance, my mother might not be capable of setting up her own hardware wallet, and that's okay. It's fine for her to have a custodial solution. I do like to encourage people to think about custodial solutions, because I think that's where Bitcoin's real power comes from. And one of the things I like to say is that the twin pillars of Bitcoin's value proposition is that you can secure and transmit your savings without anyone's permission, and you can keep those savings free of debasement. You only unlock the full power of Bitcoin if you take custody. Now, that's, again, not to say that you have to do this, but if you want to feel that real power, you do need to think about taking custody of your Bitcoin. And if you are a Bitcoin owner who has done this and you've traveled overseas, you can really feel that power, right? You cross the border and they say you're not allowed to bring more than, I know, $1,000 or $10,000, but you know in your head you have control over your savings and you can use those savings in that new location. The reason I think that's important is because I think fundamentally freedom means the freedom to choose to move if you want to move. There have been many people in history who have had to escape really oppressive regimes. Maybe in places like the US where I live, it's not as big a problem, but there are a lot of people around the world for whom this is a life or death matter. And so I think that's one of the things that I think Bitcoin makes possible, is that you can rebuild your life by taking your savings from one location to another if you need to. But you can only do that if you really custody your Bitcoin and you don't have to ask permission of the custodian to move your savings. So I think in terms of like whether it's right or not for people, I think it's incredibly powerful, but with great power comes great responsibility. And it is a little bit scary. You have to acknowledge the truth. Self-custody can be a little bit scary. Imagine if you had a car and you lost the keys to the car, and losing the keys to the car meant the car vanished from the universe and could never come back. That's a little bit what custodying Bitcoin is like. If you lose those keys to your Bitcoin, those Bitcoins are gone forever. Now, that's not to say you can't find solutions to solve this problem. And one of these solutions is collaborative multisig. And that's why I'm super excited about this product that Swan is working on and that Morit's helped bring to Swan. It's the idea that you can have power to control your savings, but we'll be here to hold your hand through that journey. It's the idea that instead of one key, you have 3 keys. And if you have 2 of those keys, then you can unlock your savings. So the idea is we will give you 2 keys and we'll keep possession of 1 key. So we don't have control of your savings because you need 2 to actually move the savings. But if something goes wrong and you lose one of those keys, we're here to help you and here to make sure you can get your savings back. So I think there's this kind of nice middle ground where you don't have to take complete control and have the fear of, oh man, if I lose my keys, then this is all gone, all my wealth is gone. But you also have the power of being able to control your savings. I think it's this nice middle ground, and I'm super excited about this product that Swan is launching.
Morit, yeah, just anything else on the risks and the assessment, single sig, custodial solution, multi-sig, or any other comment around what PJ just shared with us?
Yes, I mean, I can very much relate to this because this was like the fear that drove me to find a great technical guy to start the Spectre project. It was basically, I bought Bitcoin, I put it on my single sig hardware wallet as everybody in my Munich meetup recommended me. And I was having the key at home first, and then I carried it to the safe deposit box in a tamper-proof bag, and that was my single sig, and that was even before the time of passphrase. And I was waking up, whatever, and 2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, they have a second key for these safe deposit boxes. And then, of course, the hardware wallets were not so developed, so I wanted to like spread the risk and see like how can I come to a better solution. And at that point, it was even before like Unchained Capital or something like this started. There was basically Electrum out there, and it had it's a good tool, but it's really very much 2013, and the user interface and the user experience, and nobody really can help you. And the guys at the meetup said, all the technical guys said, yeah, you're gonna figure this out, no problem. And so this is where we came in and really put like a user-friendly user interface on the Bitcoin core node and made sure that all these different hardware wallets with the different firmwares can integrate very well. And at this point, I was able to sleep nicely again after Michael Flexman came in and tested the whole Spectre inside out. And I knew, okay, I have several safe deposit boxes, I have backups, and even if I lose one key, if one bank gets robbed, if my house burns down, if I lose one key to this 2 out of 3, I'm still safe and I still can recover my funds. But I think what Unchained then introduced in Casa and was really like this assisted collaborative custody. So this assisted multisig that you have a company which is a partner. So they have one key, they hold one key in the multisig. They give you the platform to set up everything in a secure way. And we're just taking this idea really much a step further by integrating it into the Swan platform and making it a really smooth, user-friendly experience where you don't have to go to different companion apps of Trezor or Ledger, and you just plug it all right in there at the Swan platform, and you create your vault, and you're ready to go. And even if Swan sort of should disappear for whatever reason, you still can recover into Bitcoin Core. You can recover in Spectre with simply one copy and paste, and you can recover without Swan. You're self-sovereign in this sense.
Yeah, and maybe Vijay, I'll bring you back on here. We have over 100 people joining us from all over the globe. Some of them have been Bitcoin for many years. Some of them are just starting this week. So let's not assume that people actually understand what it is, a collaborative custody solution or a multi-sig. Can you just step back, use your best-in-class synthesis abilities to explain Bitcoin hard concepts in an easy way, and just explain what it is, a single sig type of custody and a multi-sig. And then I'll bring Moritz back after that to share a little bit about the different types of multi-sig. But let's just explain at a high level what it actually is.
Yeah, so we have this concept when you are when you own your own Bitcoin of a wallet, and the wallet allows you to transfer Bitcoin to anyone you like. And there's a concept of a private key, which is the ability to unlock the wallet and send your Bitcoin. And you need to keep that private key, which you can keep on just any hardware device, a USB, or one of these hardware devices that are sold, like the Trezor is one. There's a bunch of hardware devices out there, but essentially they represent the wallet, which holds your funds, and you have a private key, which allows you to transfer. Then that's single sig. That means a single private key. Then you have the concept of multi-sig, which is you need multiple.
BJ, just on that one, sorry to cut you, but
yeah,
on the single sig approach, as you're saying, that's the car example, right? You
Yes.
have one single key for the car. You lost the spare key. So you have one single key. And if you lose that key, the car is kind of gone, right? That's a little bit of the concept there. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct, Guy. The concept is that private key is incredibly important. You lose it, it's gone. Then you have the concept of multi-sig, where you can have a bunch of keys and you can decide how many there are. And a typical multi-sig solution is 3 keys, but it's set up in a way that you don't need all 3. You just need 2 of 3 to unlock your wallet. And the idea here is that you can put these 3 keys in different places, and if you lose one of them, that's okay. The car won't disappear, in the example we're talking about, because you still have 2 keys and you only need 2 of 3 to be able to use your wallet. And the idea here is that with collaborative custody that Swan is providing, we want to help you and we want to hold your hand and be there, not to control the funds. We can't control the funds. We only have 1 key, and you need 2 of the 3 keys to unlock the funds. You keep 2 of the keys, so you always have full control, but you can rest assured, because if you do lose one of them, we're here to help you. You just get on the phone, call us and say, I lost one of my keys, something happened to it. Can you help me get my funds back? And that's what Swan is here to provide. And I think that's incredibly important in terms of just reducing the stress of keeping custody of your own funds, and not having that experience of like, my car is going to disappear from the universe because I lost a key. That fear goes away. So you have the power of self-sovereignty, of owning your savings and being able to take them anywhere you want, but you also reduce the stress of self-custody. So it's a really nice combination of both.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this solution. And what eventually happens is no longer a blocker on your Bitcoin journey, right? When you feel very comfortable in full control of your coins, right? And that is no longer a risk factor, or is a smaller risk factor on your overall assessment of this opportunity. It just gives you the optionality to increase the amount that you invest in Bitcoin. So when you think about your wealth and the share of that, usually we see clients and people in the space going a little bit higher on how much they're willing to allocate to Bitcoin once they feel very comfortable about their custody solution and being total control. Maybe Moritz, just bring you back. I think you touched that a little bit, but maybe we can go slow again and just explain there are different ways of building a collaborative multi-sig, right? There are other offerings in the market. You came with years of experience running Spectre and with the main goal at Swan to make it best in class, very easy to onboard, super simple for someone who is not technical at all to get into a multi-sig setup. So can you share a little bit of that journey, the trade-offs, the different options in the market, and why do you think what we have built is something special for our clients?
I mean, when we talk about options in the market, there are really the Bitcoin pleb solutions, I would call them, where like you have somebody who's quite some time in the space, is playing with single sig or has his money on single sig, and he wants to preserve also completely his privacy and everything. So these people are usually best served by using Electrum, Spectre, Sparrow, or even like Caravan, like something more technical, where they also connected to their own node and maybe have other functionalities in there. But these solutions, yes, you don't share your wallet data with the service provider, you keep your privacy, but they're also harder for somebody who's coming into the space and who wants the really optimal solution. So, and then we have multisig providers, which Casa and Unchained were one of the first, and they are offering assisted collaborative custody. And then we have our Swan Vault now. And basically what we are doing different to our competitors, that we are really looking for a very seamless onboarding experience, where we call it like time to vault, where you go through the key creation and the creation of the vault in a much shorter time, as we partnered with Blockstream and have integrated everything on the same onboarding flow. And so that's a very smooth experience. And also where we were really seeing that our competitors were not really up to what we want to see is like the very easy recovery into Spectre wallet to your self-sovereignty, and that you have a very easy experience of just putting your wallet into a Spectre wallet and having everything seamlessly integrated in the Swan platform.
Can I make a quick comment on that, Guy? I just want to say one of the things I'm most impressed about with the product, and I came into the Vault team after they'd done a lot of the work, so I don't want to take credit for the amazing work that the engineers had done, but one of the things that really impressed me about this product is the Apple-like experience of getting collaborative multisig. It is so smooth and so beautiful, and one of the things Apple did is really focus on this core use case. Like for example, the mouse. Back in the day when mouses had like 4 buttons and all sorts of wheels and stuff, they were like, no, there's one button, because you only need one button most of the time. And I think what the Vault team has done is focused on what is the most important parts of this multi-sig collaborative solution that we need to have, and make it as simple and easy as possible, so that someone like my mother could use it. And that's what I've been most impressed by, is that the flow of creating this Vault, multi-sig Vault, is so easy to use, and it's so collaborative in the sense that we're sort of walking you through every single step. We're not saying, here, go find some wallets and you set up the multi-sig. We walk you through step by step how to set it up. So it is really an Apple-like experience. It's beautiful, simple, easy to use, and really gets rid of all of the details that you don't really need to know about if you're not technical. You know, some people are technical and they want to play with the individual hardware wallets and figure it out on their own. But we get rid of that stuff, because for most users who are out there who want a multi-sig solution, they just want something that's easy to use.
Yeah, and then Vijay, just to echo a little bit on that, that was essentially the problem we're trying to solve. I'm sure there are a lot of folks joining us today who are using one of those other partners, right? Unchained and Casa come to mind. We have always recommended, we work very closely with them. They're great partners and great players here in the Bitcoin ecosystem. but also what we're hearing from our clients is like, we'll love to use one single platform, right? So if we're buying with you guys, love to be doing my multi-sig solution with you. So like that was one of the problems we're trying to solve for. And second, we're hearing a lot, especially from our clients, say, hey, it needs to be easier. Like, can we make it easier? How can we make it very friendly? I think like buying Bitcoin with Swan is very easy. Like the app works, it's like simple, it's not Binance or Coinbase with 20 different charts and you're trying to understand the ask and the bid and all that stuff. It's very simple because it is supposed to be simple. Bitcoin can be too complicated by itself. Buying it needs to be as simple as possible. That's what we're trying to do here. And it was the same approach that we brought to Swan Vault, making it as simple as possible, one single use experience. Clients now can, as you know, one of our most popular services is the auto withdraw. So you're not only buying on auto basis, you're withdrawing that in auto basis. And now you can do that every single day, every single week into the Swan Vault. So it's highly integrated in a single platform and ease of use, as well as security, of course. But that was a given, right? Like security is the first checkbox, but also making it very easy to use was one of the main goals.